welcome to TBS. This is Sadie. Today we're going to be talking about Emily Mitchell. You may remember she is the family Christian blogger, homeschool blogger, that died December 22nd of last year. She was reported to have an embolism, a pulmonary embolism, which is when a blood clot comes up to your brain or heart. I don't remember which one. I think it's the brain. But she was 36. She was going to have her fifth child, Joey, named after the father, Joseph. She had a boy and the rest were girls. And the dad was a high school teacher and coach. So I have an idea of what I think is going on in this scenario, but I want to ask the cards. And the reasons why I'm doing this video is because I think there's more going on here than her dying of an embolism. I think that there's something that the husband has done to cause her death. And I don't want to give my ideas until after we do the reading, but I'm sure that if you're watching this, it probably means you agree with me that something's wrong. And when you watch crime shows constantly, like we do as true crime people, you kind of get a sense of these things. You see the patterns and you can read more on people's faces perhaps. People might say to you that you don't know anything if you just watch shows all the time, but actually there's so much information in true crime right now that it does make sense that we do know more than the general public about crime. So let's see if we can figure out what the difference or what's going on with Emily. They lived in Rhode Island on a farm, and it was like a rural lifestyle vlog kind of too. So she put a bunch of stuff together to make sure that she would be watched. It was a thing where they couldn't afford to have daycare, so she pretty much became a stay-at-home mom, and to make money she started doing the blog. So keep that in mind as we start this. So first I want to get a general idea of what's going on with them in the beginning. Okay, so let's see here. So we see that they got together very young. They worked together 13 years by the time that she died. And it was a Christian marriage and a very devout family on both sides. Her family was much more devout though than his, but you could say his were devout also. They went to church. She hadn't had many people. He had only had a few people that they'd been with, and they were kind of growing up together. So for the first, like 8 years, I would say, they were together as a couple unit, having a lot of fun and living kind of like a singles lifestyle together. And that was really fun. There was a certain point where Emily started to get really serious about religion. And Joe followed along and also believed some of the things she did, but there was some fanaticism going on. And it came from her family, but also just from her personality. She was very, I don't know how to say the word. She was an earnest person, and she wanted to do the best she could all the time. He was a lot more practical than she was. And when she got to a certain age, all of her friends had kids, and she decided to have kids. He did not want it as much as her, but he went along with it because why not? It may have been time for them to have kids, he thought. So in her mind, she wanted 6 children. In his mind, he wanted 1 or 2. And what happens in Christian homeschool families and circles is that the moms have a lot more control than the dads because they're in charge of the home. and the dad is pretty much having a separate life outside of home and then bringing home money and giving it to the family. And we see that there was a lot of problems. There started to be some things set up that would make them come apart. Okay. So around the time that Emily started surrendering to a lifestyle, and after the first two were born, she wanted this. She wanted what she had seen on YouTube and what she had seen in church, some kind of life that was very idealistic, and she pushed for it a lot. He wanted to make her happy, but he couldn't keep that up because he kept pretty much like he didn't have any say in what was going on. And he knew that if he didn't want something, she was going to do it anyway. She was going to spend money on it anyway. And he was only a high school teacher and coach. He didn't make a lot of money. And her wanting all these children, it was getting out of control. But she would not stop. She would not take birth control. And that really bothered him. He wanted to have a normal life. She did not. So, as we saw before, there started to be a bunch of problems. One was that instead of her paying attention to him, she would pay attention more to the children. Two, that had a lot to do with how their sexual life progressed or didn't progress. That bothered him a lot because they used to be a lot more active and adventurous. She was always too tired to do things now. He was very in shape and she became not in shape. Third is that he had a lot of coworkers that he had a lot more in common with than his wife because he did not want to be part of this blog and this crazy Instagram life that she had decided to have. Then we have him being a father, her being a mother in very different ways. The parenting styles naturally were different. And instead of them coming together, she wouldn't listen to anything he wanted. So the kids kind of had a different relationship with her than him in a bad way. Then we see that he had wanted to buy a sports car, go on vacations, whereas she wanted to tithe and save the money for the kids' college. Then we have him coaching girls and other girl teachers showing up in his life, just being a temptation, knowing that he could get a lot of positive energy from them. They would pay attention to him, and he would feel more like he used to feel. When he went home, he just felt emasculated and dead. And then the last nail in the coffin, so to speak, was that she tricked him into the last pregnancy. So while she's celebrating, he has one face for the public and her, and one face for his friends and himself. Here we see his attention's going elsewhere. He's bringing his love and attention and romantic feelings somewhere else. Let's see. Yeah, his fear of poverty got really, really, really big. Even though she was making some money on the blog, she wasn't making as much as anyone thought. He knew the truth, but she would die rather than let anyone know what was really going on, that they were falling apart in a way and that they didn't have as much money as they should have. He was just getting pissed about the whole money issue and about not having any say in their life, because each kid is going to cost more money, and he didn't want to live that lifestyle. So he gets an idea in secret that he's going to try to do something to get rid of her. And it doesn't mean that he thought of murder right away or anything like that, but he started to wish she was gone, wish that he never married her, wish that they didn't have the kids, wish that there was some way he could get away without losing face in the community. He didn't care about it as much maybe as some other men, but it still was there, the problem. And so he started to plan different ways, think of different ways that he could get out of his marriage. He met someone at work, I think another teacher. Yeah, okay. And he started to have hope. This woman was very, very charismatic, single, and was in shape. She laughed and had fun, and he started dreaming of a life with her. I can't tell if she gave him ideas or if he told her anything, but they did have a simpatico about not liking Emily. So Joe would tell her things. And I'm sure that the queen of passion here was excited. So we start to see he does have hope for the future and more of an impetus to change his lifestyle. And he sees all the possibilities with this new person. So he starts to make the plans to get away. And he sees the world without Emily. So he decides to pretend that he's really gung-ho about the religion part and the kids part and her having the new kid. It's way too much pressure for him to deal with, but he thinks he has a plan now. So he decides to go in with her and be a little bit more involved in her blog too. So she's fooled and she's really happy. She thinks life's great. And what he's really planning is her demise. Yes, and again. So we have a secret. So what I noticed on some of the articles talking about them, she drank decaf coffee every morning, Emily did. And she's not, like, a lot of people are against women that are pregnant drinking having any kind of caffeine. Decaf has some caffeine in it. So she was doing a few things. If you read her blog, you'll see she was doing a few things like having a C-section every single time on purpose so she wouldn't have to have a vaginal birth. She was doing things that were a bit untraditional. So she was kind of like cutting corners, if you want to say it, for the purist of the homeschool movement. And she was really popular with people that were kind of on the edge and not knowing which side they wanted to be on as far as modern or traditional parenting. So he noticed, she had gone on and on telling him about this problem and how people were attacking her online about her coffee problem. And she didn't see it as a problem. She thought a little bit of caffeine in the morning every day was what she needed to go on about her day. I'm not going to comment on what I think about that, but he thought that if she already had preeclampsia this time, which is high blood pressure, so he thought, well, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can put more caffeine in her coffee and just see what happens over time, because maybe she'll have an embolism or she'll have a clot or something will happen that has to do with her having too much caffeine, because she won't know that there's more caffeine with the hyperness. She won't put that together. She'll think that God is giving her that extra energy, and then she'll be even more excited to have the kid, and I won't have to deal with her talking to me very much longer. Oh yes. Okay, yes, so then she dies. Oh Lord. It worked. I think he only did it a few times, maybe 2 times, and she died. She pretty much, it was a thing that he wanted. So nothing can be put back to him. No one's going to accuse him of putting regular caffeine coffee in where her decaf was or anything. There's no way he can get caught, but he killed her. He was sick of her, and he wanted a different life, and now he's free to do what he wants. So that message of passion that he had for this other lady, he still has that dream, and in the next 5 or 6 months, if you see her start popping up in articles about them, you'll know that's the woman from work and that he wants to marry her and that she was one of the impetus for getting rid of Emily. So I would say 100% according to the cards that he killed her, he murdered her. And what I was going to say before was that when you look at his face and when you see what he wears, you see that he's the kind of person that really does care what women think of him and wants attention. He needs attention to be happy. And to have Emily give all the attention to the children and herself instead of him really, really bothered him. He thought he had it made with the first 7 years of their marriage. He thought that's what it was going to be like. But she changed the script on him and he pretty much couldn't take it anymore. At least that's what he thought. And he didn't want to get a divorce for whatever reason. This was easier and he did do it. So let's just do a confirmation. Okay, perfect. Yeah, definitely he killed her. So if any of you have anything to say about this Emily thing, go ahead and put it down. I'm not going to say anything that I think about family bloggers or Christian homeschoolers or how she acted in any of the videos or any of the pictures or what she said, because this was just about their relationship as far as I was concerned. I hope that all of you have a good night. This has been TBS, and I'll talk to you later.